So she was, obviously from birth there were problems. She was so small, classed as failures to thrive. And they did loads of tests. She had her growth hormones checked. She spent the day seeing if that was the problem. She had loads of blood tests, x-rays done, and they just couldn't put their finger on why she was having all these problems. So I think it was 2014, the NHS were doing a new project called the 100,000 Genomes Project for all those children that didn't have a diagnosis. So that was just basically they took her blood, took my blood and her dad's blood. And they said, you know, give it a year, you might get something back. You probably won't, but... And then 5 years later, so January last year, 2020, she got the diagnosis of Wiedemann-Steiner syndrome. So it took a while, and it was a bit of a shock. Because you're special, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a bit of a shock. But then it was a relief as well. Because sometimes I think you make yourself, you think that you're making it up or you're going insane, or, you know, you know there's something wrong, but nobody knows why. And you do question yourself thinking, well, am I just imagining this? So yeah, it was a relief. But then because it's so rare, there was still no answers really, you know. It's just a good job we've got the Facebook group, because I'd be lost. We'd be lost, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a very long journey, and it's still going, I suppose. We're still in that journey. It's not going to end, is it? It's learning all, you know, what comes with it. I think when she was diagnosed in January, and then as I'd researched it and saw lots of other people saying, you know, I was convinced she had tethered cord syndrome because she had all the symptoms. And then she used to have a sacral dimple, which turned into a lump. So she had all the symptoms of that. But I just thought I wanted to push for it because of how rare it is, and there's just no knowledge about it. I asked for one. I did have to fight for it a bit. I went on the Facebook groups and got people to, you know, tell me if they've had a scan and what it found. So I did a whole document, sent it to the paediatricians. Eventually they gave in and said, yeah, we'll do it. And then she had a lump form on the bottom of her spine. So I went into it thinking it's going to come back as tethered cord. And it didn't. It came back, that's all fine. But she had Chiari malformation and fused vertebrae as well. But I think I was shocked because I wasn't expecting her to have Chiari. I was shocked that she didn't have tethered cord, but then I was a bit shocked that something came back, and hers was quite severe. So I think she's had it from birth. Not very symptomatic at all. No obvious signs of it. That's why I'm trying to tell people, if you haven't had an MRI scan, go and get one, because this is just the perfect example. You know, mums know best, don't we? You know, people need to go and get that done, because I didn't know she had fused vertebrae. I wouldn't have known about Chiari, which seems to be really common now with these children. There's quite a few now coming up saying they've got it. It seems to be connected to Wiedemann-Steiner, but it was just one of those where you just think, I was right. You know, I'm glad I pushed for it, because if this was left, it could have caused a lot more damage, and it can be fatal, obviously. It wouldn't be left that long, but if it is, you know, it can cause big problems. So, especially because she went in the first time to have the surgery, and then we were out for a few days, and then one day she started being sick and moaning of headaches, and she wasn't herself, so I took her to A&E. They gave her an emergency CT scan, and they thought it was chemical meningitis, which would have been the best option. Otherwise, it would have been fluid on the brain, and it was. So, well, she had both. She had the meningitis and fluid on the brain, so they had to drain that by drilling a hole. So that was the second time. So I was in hospital thinking, come on, I want to go to Twycross. You know, it's just one of them. It's only a 5% chance of that happening. While we was in hospital the first time, she got diagnosed with autism. So at least now that's another, it's not a label, but it's a well-known diagnosis that people can understand more. So I'm hoping she'll get a bit more support. I wasn't expecting it. I thought her behaviour was syndrome related. I thought it was, you know, the behavioural characteristics of it, but they said it's nothing to do with the syndrome and that she is autistic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a shock, that was.
Yeah.
I think going through all this, like, obviously there's been so many lows, but to see her confidence grow, you know, she used to panic just going to a doctor with a stethoscope and things like that. And then before her brain surgery, she was petrified of having a blood pressure taken. It was the only thing, she just didn't want a blood pressure taken. But then you were doing it in your sleep then, weren't you? They were doing it in your sleep. But to see her confidence grow, I know she's had to go through a lot for this, but I think in some ways it's benefited her confidence-wise. I don't think she realises how brave she's been. You know, some adults could, you know, learn a thing from you, couldn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
We've rescheduled it for the 21st of August. So it's only about 2 weeks away. She's doing a 3-mile walk, which is it's a lot for her anyway. So we're going to have the wheelchair on standby just in case she gets tired. So we're starting at one of our local pubs and ending at one of our big local parks. And she's raised nearly just under £2,300 so far. Yeah, so well done. So she's also, school also did a non-uniform day for her. Those funds, you wasn't there, no, because you were in hospital, weren't you?
Yeah.
So we're still waiting for those funds to be transferred over. Asda, our local Asda have got involved. They're doing a raffle because I heard about her story. And then Banbury Fire Station, it's my partner's friend works there. They're doing a charity car wash as well in a few weeks to try and help with fundraising as well. So you're doing really, really well, haven't you? Yeah. One we're doing is for the foundation. So I'm hoping it'll go towards research and mainly spreading awareness of it, you know, because even our neurosurgeon had never heard of it. He had to Google it and he had to do his research. And to be fair, he's done a really good job. He did research it well. And he's the one that referred her to get all her kidneys checked and things because he's researched that there's problems there as well. So just to raise awareness and research and just to help, really.